We talked about Tesla yesterday when Fat Man Zoom is out, and I had mentioned about how people are really optimistic that the worst of the chip shortage is over. And we saw Tesla absolutely go apeshit over the last 3 days. Ford and GM have also done really well in response to that, but not as well as Tesla has. And I mentioned yesterday that, Elon Musk was talking about how the Model Y could be the #1 sold vehicle in the world by next year. We've talked about how Elon makes a lot of outlandish claims, but there has been very few that he hasn't been able to follow through with. So is anybody going to bet against him now that their chip shortage, the worst of it, could be behind us? Bro, I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, and how has it ended up right now, Tesla? Let's just have the chart up while we talk.
Yeah, so right now, Tesla was almost to $700 a share. We've talked about this at length about how Tesla came up to that 610 resistance. And that, as this was coming down, we even followed it coming down. And I had mentioned that 540 looked like a potential. It just barely bounced off of the 545 area and really hasn't looked back. It struggled at 610, finally broke through that, and just yesterday blasted right through that $630 mark, laughed at 650. Today it barely touched or almost got to 700. 699 is where it got to, and it is looking awesome today. It's pulled back a little bit towards the end of the day here, but man, $700 could be knocking on the door here for Tesla. Sorry, 697.62 was the high of the day.
Yeah, 700 would be great. So the Tesla talk. So let's talk a few things about Tesla, and I want to start where you just mentioned, which is Tesla being the #1 car in the world. Can Tesla become the #1 car in the world? And let's look back at
the Model Y, not just Tesla.
The Model Y be the #1 car in the world.
Yeah.
In the world. And let's just make sure we go back to the comments, which I believe Elon made in April. He said that it likely could be it could be the #1 car in the world potentially this year, but he mentioned 2022.
Yeah.
So I don't think it will happen, but it is very possible, and I do think 2023 is very likely.
Okay.
A couple concerns around that, and just so you guys are aware, the #1 car in the world is the Toyota Corolla.
Yes.
You mentioned the pickup, which is the #1 car in the U.S.
U.S., yeah.
And so I'll get there, buddy.
Sorry. No, because I said world, I think, yesterday for the F-150.
Did you?
I might have said that. Yeah.
I don't think you did.
Okay.
Okay. So I think you just said, do you think it could sell more than the F-150?
I got you. Okay.
So the way it would beat that is to, I think the price is the consideration with that. And I think this is the problem where it may not happen. You look at the price, and the Model Y is about $40K.
Yeah.
And you look at a Toyota Corolla, and it's like $25K.
Right.
Now, the thing, though, with cars, and I think is understated with Tesla, Tesla gives you everything in the base model. I mean, you can get more, but what it gets is so much more than if you look in comparison to like a Toyota Corolla where they give you bare bones and then you got to add.
Yeah, there's like two options. There's like performance mode and full self-driving, and then it's like an extra 12 grand for that.
So looking at that, you got to remember, like, logically you'd be like, well, it costs double. It doesn't, because if you compare apples to apples, it still costs more for a Tesla, but value is far more, like received value is far more. My only concern with that is, remember he mentioned that that car that was like, they didn't name it yet, but it was like a $20,000 car or a $30,000 car?
Yeah, 25, I believe.
$25,000 car. That's interesting. Like, is that going to be, are you saying that's going to be an offshoot? A $25,000 car should be the #1 car in the world based on what we know about Tesla's track record.
Yeah.
Capacity is another issue. However, to your point, they talked about, Elon said, the next 2 years could be 50% growth with the Model Y, and this year would be more than that. So let's just say 100% growth. Model Y and Model 3, the trouble is they don't break out those numbers, but it's at like 200K for the year.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, let's say 300K, then you got 450, then you could get to $1 million. For them to be the #1 car in the $1 million, yeah, they've got to get over that number. It's going to be tough, very possible. Eventually, I do believe they will be the #1 car in the world, which bodes well for any shareholders.
Yeah. Don Francio in the house just said, Brad, there's really not two options. It's performance mode only.
The other thing I want to talk about that's more important to this conversation is Tesla Q2 delivery and production numbers. I'm excited about this, and we'll rewind to a conversation we had on the live stream, warning about what are the catalysts, what are going on. China numbers, I think people were a little bit bearish on Tesla because China shit the bed, or Tesla shit the bed in China for delivery.
Yeah.
It was May, right? Wasn't it May?
Yep.
And so I, at the time, said, listen, we look for these opportunities on our channel, and I felt good about adding to Tesla at that point. And these are the other things we talk about. We talk about the red zone. Tesla was certainly in the red zone, and it's hard to, I understand it's hard to add in these parts, but understanding your belief in the stock, the sentiment behind the stock, and knowing just the track record of a company. Listen, Tesla could be back at 550 next week. I'm not saying that, but they've pretty much pitched a perfect game up until this point. May numbers come out. I thought that was a good opportunity that they would right the ship, and analyst delivery production numbers for Tesla come out next week. Analysts are already saying it's going to be a record-breaking quarter. So if that does happen, I think the move is happening now for those numbers. The fact that they beat, I think it's going to be too late for the stock next week.
What about the drop in Bitcoin?
That was actually the third topic.
Okay.
So so set it up. Explain to people the situation with Bitcoin.
So with Bitcoin, last quarter, a lot of people argued that the fact that Tesla even came in and met expectations as far as earnings were concerned was because of the amount that they leveraged in Bitcoin. Bitcoin went up crazy after they had bought into it, and that's one big reason why their balance sheet looked as good as it did.
Yeah.
This time around might be a little bit of a different story, as Bitcoin has dropped by more than 50% since its highs. I don't remember what the average cost for Tesla was as far as Bitcoin's concerned, but either way, it's going to be a significant drop in value in Bitcoin from where it was when they reported last quarter.
That would imply that they're going to sell Bitcoin, which I don't anticipate they're going to sell their Bitcoin stake.
Correct, but I'm just saying as far as what they have on the books, assets is going to be lower from the Bitcoin side than it was in the previous quarter.
I could be wrong, but I don't think it would matter, because the reason why it mattered last quarter
because they sold.
So it showed up on their P&L. And so the argument for that was, well, you can't always bank on Bitcoin. Like you can't always sell Bitcoin to basically fluff up your balance sheet.
Right.
Or your P&L statement or whatever you're looking at. So don't get me wrong, it shows up on your balance sheet, but we're talking about profitability, and what it seems like, I think both of us agree, is they sold Bitcoin to boost up the income numbers, so the cash flow looked better than potentially it was.
Yes.
They could say that we sold because they made a ton of money and they just flipped it. It's anybody's guess. But with that being said, I think that people are overdoing the Bitcoin conversation as it pertains to Tesla.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. I was just trying to play devil's advocate and be like, hey, remember that was a big thing back in the last quarter. So wanted to make sure that we were chatting about that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's simply tied to Bitcoin. And so that could, to me, anytime it gets impacted by Bitcoin, let's say Bitcoin has a flash crash, I'm scooping up Tesla. Yeah. It's like, to me, it's an easy opportunity. So delivery numbers, guys, next week are going to be important. I think there's going to be a push into that. I don't anticipate, I think we're going to have a sense like 190,000 deliveries, I think would be on the high end of that. I don't think the stock moves off the delivery numbers because I think it's going to be priced in.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything that you said. I just wanted to make sure, because I'm sure there's going to be people that ask that question too. So I'm glad we were able to address that.